Bienvenue tout le monde, ici Georges Bouchemi de Campagne Québec-Vie. Aujourd'hui, nous avons une émission spéciale parce que nous avons un invité spécial. Il s'agit de Alexander Turguel. C'est un Autrichien et il s'est dévoilé aujourd'hui même comme celui qui était responsable d'avoir jeté les idoles Pachamama dans le Tibre, ces idoles qui ont été présentes lors du synode sur l'Amazonie. Alors, nous l'avons aujourd'hui pour lui poser des questions sur le synode. Alors, restez à l'écoute. So, Alexander, thank you for heeding our invitation today and joining us on our show.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Alexander, tell us a bit about yourself. You're an Austrian, but tell us a bit about your background in Austria and what you do.
I'm 26 years old, and I'm from Vienna, so the capital city of Austria, which was the former capital city of the Holy Roman Empire. And in Vienna, I was raised a Lutheran, but when I was 15, I converted to the Catholic faith. So it's now 10 and a half years ago. And since my conversion, I tried to get very much into the pro-family fight, and recently, within the last years, also the pro-life fight. And yes, this year I got married, and I'm working currently as I'm a student of history, and I'm working as a PR consultant.
Okay, so now that brings us to now the situation with the Amazonian Synod. So for the people watching us, the Amazonian Synod was a big meeting of bishops in Rome to discuss what's going on in the Amazonian region, where there are very few priests, and they're talking about perhaps allowing married men to become priests to serve the population of the Amazon. They're talking about perhaps ordaining women as deacons to render certain services to the people in the Amazon, etc., etc. So the bishops of the world met for 3 weeks to discuss how to care for the people of the Amazon. But at the same time, there were very dubious ceremonies that were held. And one of these ceremonies involved what has become known as the Pachamama idol, which is a wooden statuette of a naked woman who symbolizes life and fertility and so on and so forth. And some people consider that as an idol of Mother Earth or Gaia. And so, Alexander, could you describe to us what you thought when you saw the footage of the Vatican Gardens ceremony or the other pictures and photos floating around the internet? What went through your mind?
Yes, when the Vatican Garden ceremony took place, I was actually in Rome to join some conferences which were held before the start of the synod. And on the same day, I was around noon in Santa Maria and Traspontina, talk with volunteers there about the Catholic synod going on, about the Amazonian synod going on. And when I talked to them, I asked them what these statues symbolize, and they told me that they symbolize a fertility goddess or Mother Earth. When I then saw the video of people bowing down to these statues, it was for me completely clearly that these statues are not just symbols, which would be bad enough, but even real idols, pagan idols, which were used really in sermons, where Catholic priests and high bishops were attending, and even our Holy Father sat next to the ceremony. So for me, it was really a shock, and I thought, this is wrong. This should not take place in the Catholic Church. That's actually the whole story.
And so, why do you think that you were among the only people that chose to do this? What really prompted you? Did you have a feeling that this was something that you were called to do, or do you think this is just a normal thing to do?
I think it should be normal for the Catholics to watch out and not be in favor of pagan rituals taking place in the church. But of course, no, I think it was, I talked about this with a few friends, and I even asked the priest and my wife what they think about it. And at the end, they encouraged me. They told me it should be done. I told them my plan. I told them I'd just get them out and throw them into a Tibre. And they told me, yeah, you should go and get it done. So I booked a flight, went there and did it. And when I did it, afterwards, I heard that there were actually a few others, also fantastic guys, I think, I don't know them yet, who wanted to do things like that and who wanted to throw them out of the church. So I don't think I'm the only one. I think it just happens that I'm the first one who did it, but there are many people out there and millions of Catholics who think the same way I do. So it was, for me, it's easier to go there because from Vienna to Rome, it's only a flight which takes us 1.5 hours. I think there were tons of Americans, tons of South Americans, tons of Africans and Asians who wanted to do that too. So it just happens to be that I'm the one who did it, but I'm not proud of that. You know, I think what we did was a great success because it showed the people what this Amazon Synod is actually about. And so they really try to inform themselves and try to inform who are the Pachamamas, what is happening there, what is the Synod even about, what is standing in the working document of the Synod, what is now in the end document of the Synod. So we managed to get the focus of the Catholic media and the Catholic people on this Synod. And I think it is a big help for our Holy Father, who now knows what the Catholic laymen think and what the Catholic people think out there. Not only what those bishops think, who clearly had an agenda behind that.
Right. So now you may have heard that the Holy Father apologized to those who could have been offended by this gesture of throwing the idols into the Tibre. What would you answer to those who say, well, this is very insensitive because you know, these people really venerate this object, and it symbolizes something very important to them. How can you be so insensitive to these people? How would you respond to that?
The first answer is, you know, when I was in the church, I talked to people from Brazil. The Pachamama symbol is a symbol from the Andes. And those Brazilians I talked to are not living in the Andes. They're living completely on the other side of South America. So the point is that even though this symbol might be important for some people, I know, and I really try to get well informed on that in the Amazonian regions, all the different tribes which still live in the pagan way they used to live have other symbols and different symbols. So these Pachamama idols are really symbols of this new Amazonian-faced church. And I think that this Amazonian-faced church has no place within the Catholic Church. So I think everyone could understand that I did not do it to upset someone. I did not do it to upset someone. I did it to follow Christ, and Christ told us you can only come to his Father through him, and you can only come in heaven if you're getting baptized. So as long as I hear that this Amazonian religion is something which should be accepted by the church within the church, and it does not baptize the people, and it gives the clergy completely different rules which are not upon our tradition and what Christ taught us, and they ignore parts of the gospel and so on. As long as this is taking place, I think there are tons of reasons to get those statues out of the Catholic Church. So I don't want to upset anyone.
Right. Okay, so now you mentioned a church with an Amazonian face. A theme of the Synod is to not only tend to the people of the Amazon, but to the universal church at large and give the whole church an Amazonian face. Now, it seems that there's an agenda. And do you have any idea or thoughts about what this agenda could be for the church at large? What's the end goal?
Yes, there are many different ideas behind that. If you look closely on what happened before the Synod and during the Synod, you will see that, for example, our Holy Father gave a speech where he told us to obey the United Nations. So this is just one of the reasons I heard, and I know it also quite well, that some high staff of the United Nations is frequently in the Vatican and talks to our Holy Father. So I think there is a good connection. If you look at this, you will find two paths. You will find a religious part of the Amazonian Synod, which is about married clergy and women clergy and all of that. So all the fights which are already won within the Catholic Church. So since it was in the past always clear that there cannot be women ordained as priests because Christ didn't create his church this way. So it's not possible for us. And there are many popes and many councils who made that clear. And the last one was John Paul II, who made it really clear that you cannot change this anymore. So you see that these religious aspects are typical liberation theology aspects. And that's also the reason why at the Synod you saw all those pictures of the liberation theologians standing in the first row and are being used within the Synod. So they try to reinvent something which was already abolished by the Church and which was actually forbidden by the Church. So that's the religious point. And there are many clergymen out there, many bishops and cardinals, who can explain that to you way better than I do. For example, His Excellency Monsignor Schneider or His Eminency Cardinal Berg, they did wonderful talks and scriptures about that. And on the other side, there's there's the political side. The political side which tells us that we now have obeyed the whole climate ideology. I don't want to go into the scientific way now because that's not my my job, and that other scientists are way more way better than I am regarding that point. But I can think very clearly what we see around the whole world, if it's the Friday for Future movement or some anti-European, anti-American, anti-whatever movements, you will always see that that those movements are not something which comes from the people. So, for example, Friday for Future does not ask their own participants to be better with nature and to be cleaner, and they always tell us the best thing what can happen is if the states now gets more rights. So the state should get more rights, but not the state himself. So not, for example, Austria or Germany or Canada where you live, but also the kind of globalist groups like the European Union or the United Nations. They should get more rights. So they should get the right to tax all of us a climate tax, and you can separate this. It does not matter what happens on a scientific base, but it is not right and just to ask a country to give his sovereignty up to another country if it comes to these important questions about how we should live our lives. Right. Just imagine a family father, and you go to him and tell him, please now give me all your sovereignty over your whole family. Every good family father had to say, no, that's not possible. So the Church got involved in things like that, and they even ask for it. They tell us, you have to obey the United Nations, and the climate change is very important. And the Pope, Holy Father, accepted Greta Thunberg visiting him. So you see that there is a clear agenda behind that. And we want to point out that agenda, and we want to show the people that the Catholics understand that and do not want that to happen within the Catholic Church. We do not want that.
So you're seeing, in other words, a globalism politically pushed by a new religion that's globalist as well. So a new religion to accompany this globalism that's emerging.
Yes, exactly. That's the point. So you see the Church with an Amazonian faith. It's nothing else. That's the reason you were completely right when you told me before that this is not only an Amazonian thing. It, of course, is for the whole Church. The Church with an Amazonian faith is now the idea to annihilate everything. So everyone, it does not matter what you believe. It's the same like with the Abu Dhabi meeting. Right. It does not matter which religion you are. Everyone is good, everything is nice, and Jesus was a very nice person and kind of a hippie. But that's not what I think. Right. Jesus came to earth, sacrificed himself for us, took away our sins, and then went up to heaven, so that now we know through what he founded on earth, the Church, and for example, he gave us his Holy Mother and so on. What he did is unique, and we have to follow it, and that's what Jesus told us. So either you believe in what Jesus told us, or you think Jesus only a story, a fairy tale person. And I believe in what Jesus told us because I see that whenever you follow him, it's always for the good. If you follow Christ, it's never bad. Nothing bad can happen if you follow Christ. Of course, you can suffer, but there's nothing which can destroy your soul and your spirit. So if you follow Christ, you will see and experience how wonderful that is. And to abolish that, just in order to serve the new one world globalism thing happening recently, it's wrong. And the Catholic Church is not on earth to do that and to follow that. We are the ones who should lead the churches into heaven.
Right. So now, instead of having this relativistic one world church, we have to get back to the church that God actually founded, but that church seems to be too exclusivist for some people, too discriminating and too exclusionary, I guess, for the new one world religion and the new one world order that's emerging. But now I see that you now have a new organization that you've founded, and it's aptly named the St. Boniface Institute. So St. Boniface was the saint who chopped down the holy oak of the German pagans and then converted the German-speaking peoples. So can you tell us a bit about your institute and how you're going to take things going forward?
A week ago, so 1 week after we did it. And yes, St. Boniface not only chopped down the Donau oak of the Germanics, he even built a chapel out of it, which is really wonderful. Why I really adore him. The St. Boniface Institute's idea is to get together all the good Catholic people from especially Europe, but of course around the world, and to show them quite clearly what happens now around the world from a Catholic point of view, and to encourage them to follow Christ also publicly. I know many people, great Catholics as they are, who pray and who are really faithful, and if you talk to them, they're always clear-minded, but they cannot go outside, because as soon as they go out and speak to public, in the second they go out, they lose their job, they lose their reputation and all the friends. And this cannot happen. This cannot happen. And St. Boniface is a good example, because St. Boniface, he didn't. His problem was not losing his friends. His problem was standing there and losing his life.
Right.
He told the Germanics, if I chop it down and you will see nothing will happen. It would have been enough if there would be a little bit of a bigger wind or a noise coming from the woods or something, and they would have immediately killed him. So he's really an example for us. And I'm now trying to get the people to understand what I did is not heroic. That's not heroic. We did it because we think it's right, and we hope that people follow us. What is heroic is to sacrifice your own personal life for Christ and to be ready, go out and tell other people. So try to be a missionary, not only a missionary as a priest and a clergy, which is, of course, very important, and I would love to see that more happening also within Europe. But be a missionary as a layman too. So go out and be always clearly Catholic. It does not stop as soon as you go to the restaurant and you do your prayers over your meal. It's wonderful, but that's not enough. You have to go out and show the people that Catholic faith is something which goes through and through. It has to catch your whole life, and then it gives you the possibility to really follow Christ. And that's what we want to encourage. Therefore, we founded a Bonifatius Institute, so the Boniface Institute, St. Boniface Institute. And I'm very sure that this will be a great success. So people subscribe to the newsletter, and you will see what we are going to be up for, and then you will see what happens.
Well, it's done for me. I've subscribed already, and I encourage all our listeners to subscribe. We'll put on the website the exact address in the comment section or in the description underneath the video when we publish the video. And so, Alexander Chugwell, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, I'm sorry. But Alexander, thank you very much for talking to us today. God bless you. Thank you for your heroic gesture. I know when I saw those Pachamama idols being thrown in the Tibre, I was immensely overjoyed at seeing that. I thought, wow, there's a Catholic in Rome. I was so glad to see that. So thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you for all the support, and thank all the people out there for all the prayers and all the support. It was really wonderful to know that millions of Catholics stand behind us and next to us in one row, and we all fight for Christ and we all want to follow Christ. Thank you very much. God bless you and your work.
Amen. God bless. Alors, c'était Alexander Chuguel, celui-là même qui a pris les idoles Pachamama et les a jetées dans le Tibre à Rome lors du synode sur l'Amazonie. Alors, merci d'avoir écouté et à la prochaine.